What's up, folks? This is Dan from Discern, and these are my thoughts on the new album from Strahan, Out of Exile. Strahan is a singer-songwriter from Auckland, New Zealand. Like many artists under that singer-songwriter label that basically means he's a folk artist. Folk, acoustic, Americana, mild rock and pop influences for sure. Strahan has been releasing music since 2011, and this album, Out of Exile, is his second full-length album. Looking back at Strahan's previous releases, his debut full-length album, Posters, in 2013, that was a finely crafted and very intimate folk record featuring his most known song to date, Deliverance. That album was an excellent showcase of Strahan's best features, I think. Namely his breathtaking vocal harmonies, plentiful and powerful, much like the Avett Brothers. His patient arrangements, dynamically rising and falling with great care and intentionality, and the phenomenal sound mixing and balance within each song and between them from song to song. That album flowed so effortlessly from beginning to end, no lulls, no bumps along the way. In 2015, Strahan released his EP, Feel the Night, which had notably stronger worship-flavored lyrics than his past releases. Very clear and direct references to God, worship, biblical themes, as opposed to more of the general spirituality on his previous releases. The lyrics, though, were not the only thing to shift, the only thing to change. The music underwent a change as well. The instrumentation broadened out from more of those pure folk tones to involve electric guitars, with plenty of ambient color and more aggressive drums. Sort of an overall shift toward a more folk pop sound. Lots of soaring vocals, those oh-oh-oh-ohs, and thumping kick drums. But I think the music lost the heart and it lost its personal touch that it had previously. The wondrous vocal harmonies that I love so much were less prominent. They were less both in the arrangements and in the sound of the overall mix. They were just lower. They just didn't carry the torch like they used to. And overall, that EP wasn't a wreck, but it didn't really reach the level of Posters. And so I was very curious to see what's next from Strahan. So here we have the second full-length record released just a week ago, Out of Exile. Let's just run straight through this one, shall we? Track number 1, Hurricane Love, kicks off the album with a pretty active and front-of-the-stage performance. From the rhythm section, the drums and the bass maintain a really steady groove throughout this pop-influenced folk track. And Strahan's vocals have a touch of distortion and fuzz on them, just a little grit. It's clear that, after listening to this one track, this record is not going to be a return to Posters, or at least it seems like that once you're beginning. Next track, Raisin' a Boy, jumps in and hits you with more of that folk and rock pop blend. The drums and the bass are still pretty dominant, driving the pace and the dynamics. There's some warm piano and organ features, especially the very short but sweet instrumental bridge on the latter half of the track. This song, kind of like the first, is sort of ignorantly blissful. It's not a reflective or introspective sound. It's an easygoing groove. It sounds kind of like one of the more straightforward and formulaic songs from Wilco or the Decemberists. And I don't mean formulaic or in like a dull way, but more in like a timeless folk rock pop structure way. Third track, though, Help Me Believe, that brings the volume way down. It starts with the bare sound of just a single vocal and acoustic guitar, at first at least. More instruments sort of ease their way in as the song moves along: organ, bass, drums, maybe some electric guitar. This song, it really did feel like the instruments were a little over-eager to all come in. I was hoping for more of a low-key track after the first two, but the rest of the band, it was like they couldn't stay out of it. They just kind of felt their way in. Lyrics of this track are inspired from the words of Mark 9:24, I believe, help my unbelief. You may have gathered that already from, the title, Help Me Believe. Fourth track, much like the third, a very mellow track that I feel like, again, forces the instrumentation instead of patiently letting the album breathe a bit in these quieter tracks. You know, letting the album have less instrumentation for just a few tracks. Just like before, it builds up into a more flourishing chorus, complete with the bass mildly strutting around and the organ filling any voids left by the other instruments. As the title track of the song, or the title track of the album, this is the song Out of Exile, I was hoping for more of a statement to be made here. I mean, something memorable, but instead, well, it's not very memorable. The next track, Call Me, by this point in the album, I was starting to lose interest a little bit. There's very little about this track that sets it apart from what came before it. I feel like a lot of these tracks had a lot more country influences than the previous releases, which isn't always bad, but there's a familiarity and an ordinary nature to the sound and the arrangements of these songs, which get old pretty quick when it's track after track after track like that. What this album I think is lacking is the elegant pacing of Posters. It's more of most of the way through, get on your feet and move around type of sound, which I don't think is Strahan's richest attribute. Previously, he's shown he's got a superb handle of nuance and precision in his song arrangements and in his song structures as a whole. Next track, Hello Heaven, made me realize, those beautiful vocal harmonies, how intertwined they sound. They're still there, but the character and the richness, they just start to get buried by the rest of the mix. There's a lot competing here. We got piano, electric guitar, full drum set, bass, acoustic guitar. All I'm saying is, the more layers you add on, the less detail and fine points of the individual tracks, get exposed. And I think Strahan is a fantastic musician in those details, in those fine points. And while a track like Hello Heaven is certainly melodic and it's rhythmically sway-worthy, it just becomes another track that I wish would have taken it down a notch. Let Strahan's personal and more intimate sound have a moment. And then, as I was thinking that, as if on cue, the next track, Need You, comes in, and that is the personal and intimate moment. The song features some swelling and dramatic strings, which are not really a common sound in Strahan's music, but I think that's a really nice addition. It's a good variation on that sort of one guy and one guitar singer-songwriter feel. The next track, the penultimate track on this album, Satisfied, is a return to the folk rock and pop vibes. And now this time, though, I think the previous track gave this one room to breathe. Maybe it's just the context of where this song is placed on the album, but it felt like an energetic shock to the system. The lyrics are very jubilant and full of thanks, saying, "Your love, it satisfies me." The acoustic guitar is punchy, it's syncopated. There's a harmonica and a piano that each have some moments carrying the instrumental attention. There's exuberant clapping as well. They really, as a band, they fall into a pretty catchy and casual feel. And I felt like, not as much of a curmudgeon. I definitely dug this one. But like I said, maybe it's based on its placement coming right after the previous track that was a much more down feel. Final track, Wilderness, is a singer-songwriter staple. The lyrics are the focus, the central figure. And like I said, how Strahan usually does a really good job of balance, not too much, not too little. There's a wonderfully tasteful harmonica solo, very heartwarming and calming in this song. This song is a great closer to the album, sort of sending you off with the lyrics, "To the wilderness go," with the reminder that God is faithfully by your side as you enter the wilderness. So at the end of the day, this album is, much like his last EP, better than that, I think. But I was hoping for more. I've beat this drum numerous times already, but let me maybe put it in a different way. I think Strahan is at his best and most captivating in those details, in the personal moments where you feel just as much emotion and tenderness from his voice and from his lyrics as you do from his music. And there are some moments like that on this album for sure. But when the camera pulls back, when these songs start to bloom a little bit, when the whole band is in view, the melodies and the pop arrangements are really all you have left. And if those upbeat tracks aren't captivating, you know, or if they don't have enough room to find space on the album amongst the others, you know, they hit you one after the other, all sort of strutting along in a similar mild groove, you know, they all start to lose their flavor a little bit. And if there were more moments of reflection, of pause, I probably would have liked this album better. Again, it's the masterful pacing of his album posters that I'm comparing this to. And it's probably, hey, probably my fault for comparing this album to his past work rather than examining it in more of a neutral space. But hey, he's the artist of both. I know what he's capable of. I think I see his strengths and weaknesses where I think he shines the brightest. So that's just how I feel about it. Thank you for watching this album review. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. Remember, new album reviews release every Friday, and new track reviews release every Wednesday. 2 reviews each week for you. Be sure to subscribe to make sure you don't miss any new reviews. If you have a question or a comment for me about this album or not about this album, let me know. You can comment below this video. You could tweet at me at discernreviews. You could send me an email, discernreviews@gmail.com. Did you listen to this album by Strahan, Out of Exile? Have you listened to his previous albums? You know, how do you think this one stacks up? Or, an even deeper question, is it fair to judge an artist by their previously released art? That's a topic for another time. An interesting thought for sure. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Hope this helped. See ya.